Good evening and welcome to the Connection Cafe. My name is Yvonne and I am a restorative and hatha yoga teacher with MoreYoga. And this session is called Yoga Journeys. And it was my idea on the back of the head of marketing at MoreYoga, Beck, asking me to provide a space during the Black Lives Matters movement to amplify melanated voices. So I came up with this idea to basically highlight the journeys of yoga teachers of color. So I asked the same 10 questions to each teacher, and this is about, I think about my fifth one, sixth one. And so same questions, but the answers are all completely different, which you'll imagine. So without further ado, let me introduce this evening's guest, Vaun Davis Otoin.
Right, lovely to speak with you. For those of you that aren't aware or are aware, my other name is Nyanadev. So you may know me as both, but usually people just go by Vaun. But it's nice that you all get to hear my government name. So yeah, there we go.
Wonderful. So how are you this evening, Vaun?
All is blessed and all is abundant. And I was actually wondering if it's possible to do a mangalye, so just to create some auspiciousness with a mantra before.
I was about to say, your mic, it's your sound is not probably as clear as it could be or as loud as it could be.
Okay.
So maybe just turn your mic up a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
That's better. Amazing.
Oh, okay.
Perfect.
Hear my ears. Okay.
All
right.
So would you prefer me? Would you prefer me to call you Yanadev?
Yes, please.
Noted, yes. Yanadev.
And I was wondering if I could start with a mantra to create some auspiciousness before the interview.
You can do whatever you would like to do. It's your interview. Off you go.
This is wonderful. All right, everyone. So just closing your eyes, taking a moment just to focus on your breath, relaxing your shoulders and just stacking the spine as you root through your sitting bones, your seated bones, and just let go. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Para Brahma, Tesmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Beautiful. You've got such a beautiful voice.
Thank you so much. I try my best to bring that into sessions. Yeah.
So you're taking me off script already.
We knew this was going to happen. We had a.
No, it's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. So before I get into the set questions, we're going to have to kind of unpack Yanadev. What does it mean? Why do you have another name? Because not everybody will understand why you have another name. So I think, tell us what it means, how long you've had it, why you've got it, and what was the mantra, and why did you choose it?
Wow. Okay. So making sure that I answer all of those things. So I initiated, or I received the name from an initiation from when I completed my Shivananda yoga training. It's just that I didn't adopt the name until, I guess, the beginning of COVID, because Nyanadev, or as I was speaking to a Sanskrit Hindi scholar, they said to me, actually, it's not really Nyanadev, because it would be Nyanadeva and a Devi, and they started going into all of these details, and I was like, that's not what I was told by the Shivananda gurus and disciples. They gave me the name, and they said it means incarnation of knowledge. And as you can imagine, a name like that is a very big name. So it wasn't something.
Incarnation of knowledge.
Incarnation of knowledge, yes. Incarnation of knowledge, yeah, because jnana is knowledge. So there's 4 types of yoga, as you probably know, the jnana yoga and the karma yoga. and the Raja Yoga. So Raja Yoga is more your meditation, Jnana Yoga is your knowledge, and then you have Bhakti Yoga, which is your devotional yoga. So there's all of these different lineages, there's all these different schools that have the same, I guess, ethos, which is to really root themselves in the true meaning of yoga, which is so far beyond all of the things that we see around us. But
Beyond
we'll go into
Instagram.
more details. Yeah, well, it's one of those things, isn't it? Because with Instagram, I mean, I guess people can only show what it is that will bring the clicks in. So when we start to think of Instagram from a marketing perspective, you start to realize why people are doing what they're doing and doing splits and handstands and flips and all of the things that you wouldn't really necessarily associate with yoga, but they're getting the clicks. And if they're not getting the clicks, someone else is getting the clicks, and it becomes more about the competition. And you know, we are living in the Western world where everything is consumption and competition and material, and we are in the age of Kali, where it explains in the Kali Yugas that this age of 5,600 years or sometimes 5,400 years is going to be completely all of this war, devastation, famine, suffering, and we've all been brought back here through many reincarnations. But yeah, before I digress, reincarnation of knowledge, Shivananda, and I did my training 3.5 years ago now.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so very much. So, Yanadev, starting with the set questions now.
Yes.
Honoring our ancestors, tell us your family lineage.
So my family lineage is, so my background is Jamaican, but I was actually raised in foster care. So the connection that I have to my background, it's very fragmented. And that, I guess, is something that has helped me be quite detached from a lot of the labels and things that we have to identify with. So it kind of helps you from one perspective not to be too attached and too consumed. But then on the other perspective, you feel a bit like you don't belong to anything and you feel so far removed. But my background is Jamaican, and I was raised in a Jamaican household per se, but a more westernized version. But yeah, I mean, when we think of it, it's like, you know, the Black diaspora of people coming from the colonies in Africa and moving all around. When I speak to my mum, she says that my heritage is from the Maroons, who went to the hills in Jamaica, and they were one of the only groups that managed to fight off the British soldiers because of the heights of the mountains. So the soldiers, they couldn't infiltrate certain spaces, whereas the reason why places like Haiti were so easily colonized were because it was all flat surface. So all of the flat surfaces were easy to colonize, and all of the places with mountains were a bit trickier. So it took longer to infiltrate. But I guess in the end, with neocolonialism and all of the things that happened after, with, you know, the pillaging and the rape, they managed to take what they needed to take. And here we are now. Okay. I say it with a smile on my face, but it, you know, if you don't smile, you cry.
Well, that's what we have to do.
It is what it is. Yeah.
It is what it is. But, you know, we're here shining bright, telling the story.
Exactly. Precisely.
So next question. Where, when, and with whom was your first yoga class?
So I guess my first yoga class was actually at a gym when I was, well, no, okay. So my mum used to be a dancer, and we would do some singing and exercising together. And a lot of the times we would be doing some yoga poses that she learned because she went to Thailand. But she never really told me about the lineage that she kind of learned her practices from, because she actually had a mental illness, so she probably can't remember herself. But my actual first experience, like my legit first experience after doing practices with my mum here and then, it was when I was 19, and it was in a gym, and it was actually by a very mild-mannered South Asian woman. And looking back now, it was probably Shivananda that she was teaching, but I found that it wasn't enough for me. It was a bit slow, and I just felt like it was okay, but I desired more. So I knew of the yoga practice, and I think from there, it just kind of went more into like here, dropping in here and there and everywhere. And then I think in my early 20s, that's when I really started to embrace the yoga practice consistently. Because, you know, when you do things every now and then, it's not really something that you really learn anything from, because as soon as you finish the session, you go back to normal life, you forget everything you've learned, especially when it comes to the principles and the form. Whereas when I started to do it more consistently, that I would say that would be my early 20s.
So what year was this when you were 19? I don't know when you were 19.
So, well, I mean, am I really divulging my whole? Okay, yeah. So when I was like, so I'm now 33. So when I was 19 was what? Who can do the maths? Let's just pretend it was what 30.
I'm not
14
even
years
trying. I
ago
just
now.
need you to tell me
I
the
know
year.
you just leaving me to it. It's like 14 years ago now.
14
And it
years
was in
ago.
Fusion Gym.
Fusion Gym. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first class was in the gym too. Yeah.
Yeah. But if I said 33, my stage age is probably 27. So if anybody's out there, we could just go with 27 for the record. Okay, cool.
Noted.
Right, wonderful.
Noted. Okay. So when did you realize you wanted to teach yoga?
So I realized that I wanted to teach yoga when I was in a class. And so basically my background is in fashion and makeup. And it was extremely fast-paced, extremely stressful, and everything was temporary. Nothing was real, and everybody was fake. And the people that weren't fake had to pretend to be fake in order to make it. So when you're in that environment and you're a sensitive soul, and you're just like, what is going on here? Because I can see through all of this and nothing is real. And so anyway, I always did things like Reiki and crystal healing and meditation, but I still worked in the industry because it paid the bills, and I loved the creative expression, the outlet that it gave me because of the upbringing that I had. I guess it was what saved me from not being like a lot of my, well, I wouldn't call them brethren, but I would call them the people that I lived in close proximity to, that all ended up on drugs and drinking, you know, from living in a working class, underprivileged lifestyle. In foster care. But anyway, I'm digressing again. So the question was when I realized. So yeah,
when did you realize you teach?
When I realized was when I was really stressed out and not knowing what I wanted to do, because I realized that I was too burnt out from the fashion and the makeup and all of these types of things. And I was in a yoga class, and I remember just inhaling and exhaling and just breaking down crying. And I was like, if this can touch me, and after everything I've been through, and I feel that this primordial, profound experience can touch me so deeply, and this is just the smallest little bit, I feel that this is what I am here to do. I feel that I am here to guide people to let go of all of the layers, all of the things that they identify with that are the full self, in order to find the true self that is underneath all of the things, but we've just forgotten our way. So that it was literally all of the things that just flashed through into my head at that time. I was just like, this is me. I'm finally able to breathe. And I just
How long after your first yoga class is this?
How long after my first yoga class? Yeah, so this would have been, I mean, I never really thought, I never saw myself being a yoga teacher, because especially when you look around and when I was 26, 27, there weren't many Black yoga teachers or anyone. And if they were more, I guess, mixed race. So they were, I guess, white passing. And if there was a Black person, they were so far removed from, it just seemed like a different world. So and everybody was
6
always
years, 7 years from first class to when you decided to be a teacher.
I like it. Guided me back.
I'm always going to guide you back to the question.
8 years. 8
years, okay.
Yeah,
lovely.
8 or 9 years, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So now we're going to get into the teacher training bit. So where, when, and with whom was your first teacher training?
So my first teacher training was with a gentleman named Conrad Paul, and he was the founder, bless him, rest in peace. He was the founder of Fitness Professionals, and they worked on behalf of the YMCA. So that was my first experience with becoming a yoga instructor, a yoga guide.
Okay. And do you remember the year?
Do I remember the year? I should remember the year. So it was 4.5 years ago. So it would have been 2015.
Okay.
Or, yeah, 2015.
Okay. Okay. Do you remember how many people of color were on the training?
There was two of us.
Out of how many?
So it was a group of about 20, and there was two of us.
Okay.
Yeah, basically.
Was the training in the UK?
Yeah, this training was in the UK. And one of the reasons why I took this training, maybe we'll get more into this, but it was more so because of the fees, of like the extraordinary fees of these yoga things. Because, I was practicing consistently at a studio, and it's one of the studios that I work in now, as it happens. But, the prices of studios, when you're paying for, this primordial, authentic, very learned people, you're paying at least about £130, probably at least £130 a month. So if you're looking at the average training course, which is 4.5K,
yeah,
all of my money was literally just going into my practice. So when I felt like, oh, and now I want to teach, it's like, oh, so now I have to find some more money to go and practice, and I'm not even sure if it's something that will work for me. It's a big investment. So one of the reasons why I took this course was because they were actually grant funded. And I felt like at least that could give me some support, so that at least then if I decided that this was for me, then I could continue on that path without feeling like I just invested and not knowing what I'm going to do with this course. Like a lot of yoga teachers that have actually stopped teaching, they put all this money into this bourgeois course, and then it's like, oh, it's a lot harder than I thought. It's like, woo, yeah, but yeah, that's me. So, but that was my first training.
Wonderful. And what trainings have you done since?
So the next training I did was a year after, and that was the Shivananda training.
Okay.
And the Shivananda training, that was in India. And one of the reasons why I did the Shivananda training, I guess I was a bit naive to it now. I mean, you only learn these things in hindsight, but everybody has their own journey. It's just that the Shivananda training was it's one of the only places, one of the only courses that have a good foundation in all of the 8 paths of yoga. And when I mean 8 paths, I mean yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and some, Patanjali. But for those who don't know, Patanjali Yoga Sutra. And it's one of those things, because what I found with a lot of the yoga courses is that they really push the physical, anatomical aspect of the sessions. And when it came to things like the more subtle kind of experiences that were more individual, those things, because it's not tangible, I guess, to the Western world, it didn't really resonate to do so, or to have that on the discipline for certain courses. I hope I'm making sense. But basically, I liked it because it resonated with the more spiritual, philosophical side of me. It's just that Shivananda, they only practice 8 asanas throughout their session. So a lot of it is philosophy, mantra, and then breathing. You do about 8 to 9 asanas, and then it's rest. So it's very restorative. And that was what resonated with me. I wanted to do Kundalini as well, but it's just that I did a lot more Shivananda practice. And when I was practicing in the studios, it was more Vinyasa flow, Ashtanga based, and sometimes Jiva Mukti. So Jiva Mukti is about 10K. So that wasn't going to happen anytime soon. So, the Shivananda, I mean, if you're out there, Jiva Mukti, I love you and I'm here for you if you should ever want me to come over. So I do plan to train with you guys, but just not right now. So the Shivananda was actually taken. So the Jiva Mukti, their whole philosophy was based on Shivananda as well as Ashtanga. So I just thought to myself, well, why don't I just go to the source? And that's why I did the Shivananda training.
Wonderful. Thanking you. So moving on to the wellness industries, highs and lows of the wellness industries. And I would invite you to start with the lows so we can end on the highs.
So the lows of the industry, I mean, there's a lot of layers, and it's very fragmented. I mean, I guess for me personally, it's the lack of representation. And then also the fact that if you are represented, you're almost pigeonholed. For me, my experience, so not only as a BAME, but as a member of the LGBT, I felt that if you are a gay man, you're probably doing naked yoga or some kind of sexual yoga. And then if you're Black, you're usually doing some kind of Egyptian, African style yoga, which for me didn't really resonate because I didn't start in that place. I didn't start going to African yoga or like kinetic yoga or anything like that. And then I feel as though when you do qualify as a Black yoga instructor, the standards, you have to be, you know, the standards seem to be so high that it just doesn't even seem like it's worth your while even bothering to train. So when you look into why there's a lot of Black yoga teachers that either don't bother to go through with the training or just happy to do their own thing and don't really want to move into wider spaces, it's because usually there's not much of an opportunity to do so. It almost feels as like being yourself isn't enough. You have to be this amazing person. You have to speak differently. You have to dress differently. You have to have some middle class background. And these are all of the things that I didn't notice until I started to teach. But I feel as though it's not just a Black thing, it's also a class thing. Because, I mean, if you're Black is being bad enough, but then being working class Black is even worse. So you have to kind of refine yourself to the point where you don't even recognize who you are anymore. And then when you're going into something such as yoga that is trying to help you strip away the layers for you to be your authentic self, and then you realize, but my authentic self doesn't seem to be good enough to be in this space, then what do you do then? And that's what I feel a lot of the issues are, especially when there's no representation, because there is no narrative that we have to move from. I mean, luckily now, with people such as yourself and a lot more spaces because of what's happened with the Black Lives Matter, that we're getting this attention and all of these things, and all of a sudden scholarships are opening up, and oh yeah, well, Black people can come, and they're trying to represent everybody, but no one is thinking about what was happening before that. So it's just for people out there to bear that in mind, as to like the struggle. I hate to say the struggle is real, but I mean, for everybody, there's always a challenge, but there is a big challenge in the wellness industry for Black voices.
It's real, and yes, you've highlighted, some seeds of hope, but it's sustained is the word that I look for. That kind of sustained change. So those are the lows. Any highs you would like to share?
Yeah. So, there's lovely highs. The support that I've received in my journey. So one of the first places that I started, where I did a lot of my practice when I used to live in South London, was Yoga Point. And Rebecca and Vajasin, giving them a shout out. They are so amazing, as they've supported me from the beginning of my journey through and through. And I think it's very important that the Black community realize that there are a lot of allies out there. Or when I say Black, I mean BAME community. I mean, there's a lot of people that were trying to create representation before this influx of all of the bigger names doing it. So I feel that it's really good that the BAME community try to move into spaces where they see more Black yoga teachers. But anyway, and also, in my journey, when you start out, you kind of have this insecurity, but as I've opened up in my own practice and found my own confidence, I've started to realize that there's so many spaces that are open to LGBT people, to BAME people, and that there's scholarships happening, and that yoga is becoming more affordable, in the sense that now it's not so exclusive, in the sense that it's trying to embrace everybody. But when you try to embrace everybody, you can't obviously please everyone. But there's so many different changes happening, and I feel that everybody is trying to move forward in a way that is trying to embrace everything. it's such an exciting time, because I feel like we're all part of a journey that is moving in acceleration, you know, as we move into this fifth dimension, this new place. It's beautiful to see, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Wonderful. What would your one ask of the wellness industry be?
My one ask of the wellness industry would probably be to, I mean, everybody's trying to do what they can. I think I will give credit where credit is due, but I do feel as though there should be some spaces that are doing more. There are more established studios that are out there, and everybody knows who they are. And there's some really good yoga teachers out there that, due to the way that I would say the institution works, there's just not the access, because once again, if it's not about just being Black, it's about the classism. And, you know, a lot of people cannot compete with people that have, you know, the privilege of being able to have all of these accreditations to their name because of the money that they have behind them. So I feel that a lot of these more established places should really take the chance to try to create more representation with people that are good yoga teachers, and try to at least enrich them in a way so that they are at a level that is creating egalitarianism, equality for all. But it has to start somewhere. You know, you have to make some allowances, and I feel that these bigger studios aren't doing enough, and they're only doing little bits now and having a little Black face here and there doing a pose. But there's a lot more that they should be doing, and they all know who they are. And, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement, it is coming not to a decline per se, but it would be interesting to see how many of these bigger yoga studios and how many of these bigger brands are still, you know, having these like fuller figured Black women or men on the front of their campaign, whereas usually that was something that was never heard of before. So it would be interesting to see how
this
they
time
sustain
next year.
Yeah,
it'll be the same. Sustained, that word again. Okay, so what got you through lockdown?
What got me through lockdown?
What was getting you through lockdown?
So I've always been, so my practice has always been seeded and rooted in bhakti. If it's not about devotion, to me there is no point. And it was the Krishna consciousness movement. So ISKCON Soho, I was every Wednesday and every Thursday they have Wisdom Wednesdays and Spiritual Science Thursdays, and we would do a Zoom every week, and learning so many things about the scriptures, and learning about Krishna, and learning from people that really understand what it is to move with the grace of a yogi. You know, these people, they are creating a space in society to nurture the brahmacharis. And when you look into Varna Ashrama, which is the true meaning or the true foundation of what Hinduism has kind of become and how it's been monopolized, that's Hinduism. But Varna Ashrama is the true nature of people. And there's 4 groups in society. You have the brahmacharis, which are the priesthood, and then you have the kasat. I'm not going to go into all of them, so I can't remember now. But you have like your administrators and your royalty, and then you have your artists, your poets, and then your labormen. And they just work with the natural pillars of society, the 4 groups. And the Brahmins, they create a space in society for people to ascend. And what's happened is that everybody now is just chasing material, and no one has realized that there's different groups. But anyway, I digress. So basically, I've been doing my Wednesdays. Yeah, I mean, I would love to speak more. If anybody wants to know any more information, I'm always there to help and to guide. But it's they really helped me understand the true fundamentals of yoga, and I've been doing my japa mala every day. I mean, I always meditated every day. I always did my pranayama every day. I always practice. I always try to live by the sutras of Patanjali. But there was things that I was cherry picking. So it's like, okay, I'll do that, but I won't do this. And for me, it's just like, well, if you're not dedicating your whole being, your whole life force to these 8 sutras, then really, what is it that you're doing? It then becomes more self-gratuitous, because you're not really refining, you're just cherry picking. And that is what has happened with religion. And that's why so many things have become toxic, because we take our own ideas and under the mode of ignorance, because Maya is so persuasive, we get so lost. And then it becomes more about the Rajasic, passionate, over like full of passion, full of pride and full of ego self, as opposed to the sattvic self. And the Krishnas, they live every day in their sattvic truth. And we are all naturally in this position where the gunas dictate everything we do. So when I say about the sattvic, we have our more natural, our more spiritual side, our authentic spiritual side. And then we have our Rajasic, which is passionate and ego driven. And you see a lot of yogis with that kind of mentality. Even though it's yoga, you still see it. And then you have the tamasic side, whereas that's people with inertia, people that when you're just lacking that substance, that life force. And we have all of those attributes. But the Krishnas, they do everything in their power to be sattvic. And it's like the Shivananda people, all of the disciples, all of the devotees, all of the gurus, they are living true in that space. And that's what I respect. And they are respecting a lineage all the way from the Vedas. So Prabhupada, who is a disciple of, I always say Shankaracharya, but it's another gentleman. But the foundation of the Hare Krishna consciousness was just to enlighten people and for everybody to know that Krishna is here and to sing the Maha Mantra, which will liberate us from this age of Kali.
Was that what you did at the beginning?
So which one? Sorry, what was that?
What was the mantra you did at the beginning? I forgot to ask you that question.
So that mantra was, so the Christians would be like, Vaun, where are you going with this? So basically, I am a bit in between. So I have a love and devotion of Shiva. And I do believe in the trinity of auspiciousness. So that mantra that I sang at the beginning was an ode to Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. Mm-hmm. And Vaishnavism is part of the Krishna consciousness, because they believe in Vishnu. And Shiva is a very different, he's a complete opposite, because he's a destroyer and Vishnu is the preserver. So their kind of mentality. So when you look at a lot of the yogis in India smoking, the hash and with the dreadlocks, those would be the Shivites. And then you have the Vaishnavisms, the Vaishyas, that would be more like the Krishna consciousness, more, I guess, monotheistic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bringing you back onto the next question.
Yeah.
It's great because you're sharing all your knowledge, which is vast and deep. So I always love your posts because I always learn so much from you. So thank you.
Oh, bless.
So rest in peace, George Floyd. It's yeah. With that in mind, how many additional followers did you pick up on Instagram or any socials on the back of people diversifying their feeds in the light of Black Lives Matter movement?
I think it's a bit tricky because I never really pushed Instagram. I mean, for me in this yoga journey, like I'm here, I can't be bothered now. I'd rather just read my scriptures. I'm here again. Okay, hashtag, right, I'm here again. Oh, am I meant to do my hair? Oh, what am I wearing? I kind of just didn't bother. And then in the break, I was like, okay, I've kind of got no choice now, because this isn't going to be 2 weeks or even like a 4-week kind of stint like we all kind of thought at the beginning. So, oh yeah, no need to buy the camera stand. Oh yeah, no need to get the new phone and anything, because it's only been 4 weeks. I'll be back in the studio.
4 months later, 6 months later. Yeah.
After that, I was like, okay. After about a month, I was like, okay, I better invest in myself. I just started to switch it up a bit and be a bit more engaging. And I found that that's when I grew 400 more followers and a lot more engagement in that time. Whereas before that, my numbers were just consistent from the beginning of my journey, really. Yes. But that's because I engaged, I didn't engage. But Instagram is all about your engagement and how attractive you are, and that could be in any sense. So you have to really sell something and try to keep that authenticity. And that is a balance that, I mean, for the people that are very established in what it is that they do, when you realize how much effort they put into it, it becomes very clear that you have to have a certain mindset and you have to have a very big drive and a very clear focus. And I find that if you are more, I would say rajasic in this instance is good, because rajasic is when you have a drive and a passion to be the best. And that competitive nature is what really kind of propels you on social media. And I hope I haven't caused any offense by saying the best. I mean it in the best possible sense, that you just really believe in what you're doing and you want to share it to the world. Whereas for me, I find that social media, it can be a bit of a slippery slope, because, you know, you take a few photos, you get a bit of a following. And if you haven't got a clear, precise goal, for me, it's to spread the message of God. And for others, it might be more of a social activist thing. So I think as long as you have a good foundation that you are moving from, then you can be consistent without getting lost. And then all of a sudden you're just taking selfies just because you look pretty or you bought a new Lululemon outfit. I mean, it's such a slippery slope. And I find that sometimes, you know, I say, oh, this pose looks nice. Oh, let me put my hair up. Oh, okay, no.
Stop.
I'm relinquishing myself, because the Maya, illusion of Maya is so deep that even the most learned yogis, anyone can get swept up in the illusion. And before you know it, you're gone. And you're so far gone that you believe what you're doing is coming from the mode of goodness. And that's how messed up Maya is. And we are all born into Maya, and we're all existing in Maya. So Maya is everywhere.
Okay. So 400 extra followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
How many studios approached you to diversify the teaching style?
How many studios approached me? So, you know, a few studios approached me. But when I looked at what they were doing before Black Lives Matter, and when I looked at the representation, I was just like, I mean, it's very nice that you're giving me a platform. It's very nice that you've considered me. But I am not going to be the person that just takes whatever's being offered to me, because you're now deciding that, oh, well, because we need to do something, we're just going to have to do. So when I feel that vibe, it's like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to focus on my own growth. So for me, it was more important that I just relaxed a bit, because before COVID, I was trying to do a bit of everything. And I think that's why I wasn't really that active on social media. I was trying to establish myself so much. And I think it was coming more of a place from lack, because I was desperate in a sense to really make sure that I was creating a good foundation enough that I wouldn't have to go back to my old job because of the money I was getting and that I no longer was getting. So you're trying to do as much as you can and take all of the cover work, do all of the opportunities. You know, when you become a yoga instructor, for those of you that aren't probably or thinking about it, you'll realize that the work that goes into just getting into some studios, just getting cover work, sustaining that cover work, talking to people, getting more opportunities, that is a marketing job within itself. And a lot of people just think
the yoga hustle is real.
Listen, and people don't really think, I'll get my 500 hours, I've done this and I've done my Dharma and my Mandala, and oh, I'm going to go to New York and I'm going to do this. Oh, good for you, but the hustle is real when you come back, so be prepared. So you go to India for 6 months, I really hope that gives you the drive that you need to establish yourself here with all of the people that are hungry for a spot. And so my point being is that, yeah, there was a few opportunities and I was just going for the more authentic places. And for the places that didn't resonate with me, I just didn't go with it. And then after everything kind of locked down anyway, so a lot of the places that were approaching me, it was a bit like, okay, yeah, that's great, but that doesn't work for me because that's going to affect the time that I have with my Wisdom Wednesdays with the Krishnas, or that's going to affect something that I'm already doing. So that doesn't work for me. So maybe after this all blows over, we'll see. So I've just taken more of a more relaxed stance.
Interesting where you say those that were more authentic. What was that one key authentic ingredient that drew you in, that you said yes to as opposed to not? So
I feel, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that, you know, I am one of the social activists that I'm watching. I mean, yeah, I do kind of share some things about veganism and plastic. Okay, maybe I'm a bit of a social activist, but or social environmentalist, you know, whatever you want to coined the term as. But I just feel like when you're looking at yoga studios who are supporting people, who are really trying to do things that are a bit different, who was already going against the grain before all of this stuff was happening. So it's very easy to look on someone's feed and see what they're sharing. And for me, a lot of the yoga studios, it just seemed more about like the look and about the polished aesthetic, which I mean, fine, you know, we all like to look nice. We all want to be the best, and we all want to be our best self because we work in an industry that is, I mean, how can you show or demonstrate that you are happy? You know, you kind of have a shiny look and you have a glow, and there's a way about you that you convey that a polished essence. And it, you know, and if you want followers and you want to market yourself right, it just is what it is. Like, we can't be naive to it. But I just felt like if there were places that focused more on that kind of polished, overly polished aesthetic, and pushing the kind of exclusivity where, I mean, you just see it, and I really don't even want to speak about them, because for me it's just like everybody has a place, and whatever resonates with those people that market themselves like that, then that resonates with them, because we all have our own space. And this is what I'm focusing on more now, and hopefully I can speak a bit more about what's kind of happened on the offset of a lot of people trying to push back at the studios that aren't representing them. You know, I find that a lot of the BAME groups now are becoming more aggressive with the fact that a lot of the kind of Instagram things that they're sharing are very kind of combative with what they don't like, as opposed to really focusing on how to nurture what it is that we are cultivating now. So I just feel like it's really important for a lot of the people out there to have a good balance of what we're sharing on our feeds, and try not to feed into negative, toxic narratives that don't really serve us. I mean, you know, let the studios do what they want to do, and we see it, and then we can speak on it. But remember that we're here to share other things and to uplift people. Otherwise, we end up looking just as jaded as the people that we say oppress us and don't give us a voice. I feel it's very important that we show ourselves in the best light, and it's unfortunate that we have to kind of turn the other cheek to it, and it is unfortunate that we have to scream to be heard. But I feel that there should be a balance between the two, and it's a very tricky balance, but you know,
but it's finding that balance. It is about the balance. You can't turn the cheek and not speak at all.
No, not completely,
but
exactly.
it's finding the right way to speak.
Because if I'm just going to sit here, if I'm going to sit here and just say, this is not right, that's not right, and mimic everything that's already established, and then expect for them to, you know, create a platform for, you know, people that are so against what it is that they've built their whole career around, we can't really expect to be received. So, I mean, not to play devil's advocate, but I just feel like, you have to play the game a bit. It's all a game. And as long as you understand the way that things are and not the way things ought to be, from that, they call it a sociological imagination. And when you start to look at the sociology of things and how institutions work and the structures in place against so many things, then it just makes so much more sense as to why things are the way they are. Then you make peace with it.
Thank you. Okay, so what does the rest of 2020 look like for you? What's coming up? What do you want to promote?
What do I want to promote? So I would like to promote the Krishna conscious movement. So every Wednesday and every Thursday, they have a gathering, which I was speaking about, called Wisdom Wednesdays, where they speak about, they get learned speakers in to speak about Krishna consciousnness. And on Thursdays, we speak about the Bhagavad Gita and the journey of Arjuna and Krishna. And in regards to things I'm sharing, so I have my class at Yoga Point in Brixton. So one of the studios that I really believe in and that really support me. I'm there every Sunday at 10:30 to 11:30 and 12 to 1. And
two different classes?
Two different classes. The first one is Vinyasa, and then the second one is a beginner's Vinyasa flow. and I'm on Zoom doing my thing here and there. So check out my space. I'm actually doing my Pilates training now, and one of the reasons why I'm doing Pilates is because honestly, after everything that's going on with yoga, I find that they are that school. I mean, there's many different schools of Pilates, but I just feel like they're one of the authentic places that are just real with the fact that what they're doing isn't yoga, it's Pilates. And what I'm seeing, what we're seeing a lot of is aerobics. You know, we go to many places and it's not really yoga anymore. So that's what's kind of driven me into Pilates. So I'm just like, you know what? Yoga is so not real right now that I don't even think I want to do it anymore. And then you realize, no, it's just a type of yoga. But like I said, there's a space for everybody, but I'm training now in Pilates just to add another addition to my skill set and also to refine my understanding of the anatomy, because as much as I'm all about the philosophy and the spiritual devotional aspect of yoga, you know, we have to be real. You know, we are a material manifestation in a dense form. So the more we can understand about the body and the more that we can express and articulate ourselves through the medium of the body, hopefully that will bring us closer to the devotional aspect. Because once you can control your body and you can control your breath, then you create space for mindfulness.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm starting an online course with Andrew McConaughey soon as well.
Oh, nice,
nice. Yeah. So before we open up Q&A to the lovely people tuning in this evening, are there any final thoughts, comments, or shares you would like to impart?
100%. So for me, I think it's very important for me to give advice. It's you take your time with the journey and try not to be too concerned with what others are doing. I spent a lot of my junior years, I would say, being very conflicted with what school to go to, how many hours to acquire, was I doing the right hours? All of these things. Am I wearing Lululemon? Am I doing this? Am I not doing this? Am I going to be a rebel? What kind of yoga teacher am I? Am I going to be more this? Am I going to be more that? And it's just like, just allow yourself to digest the teachings, because I was so caught up in all of the things that I thought I had to be. I was never present in all of the teachings that I'm only just understanding now. But I feel that everything happens for a reason. So every journey is individual, and just take a breath and exhale, inhale, exhale, and just enjoy it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So, lovely audience, if you would like to ask Yanadev a question, you can either type it in the chat box or you're welcome to come off mute and ask him directly. The floor is yours. Sometimes people are very quiet.
Oh, I know. This is what I'm just like, cue the smile.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
There's a question. Hello.
Hello. Hi. Hello.
Hello, your Zoom user. What's your name, Zoom user?
Hold on. Yeah. So my name is Krista, and I've been to Vaughn's classes previously. So I just wanted to say hello because I think it's so lovely to see you.
Oh,
and you're looking really well. And I miss your classes. And I hope I can join you in one soon. That's all I wanted to say, really. I'm sorry, I don't think I have video, so you can't see me. But
it's okay. No one's got the video, and it's fine. We don't mind. It's fine.
Okay. Where did we meet? Where did we do our flow together?
Brixton Leisure Center.
Oh, wonderful. Better Gym. Yeah, shout out to Better Gym as well, because they are one of the voices that really encourage full representation.
Exactly.
And they try to do what they can to give everybody a platform, whereas some of these bigger studios, as I was saying previously, it's very hard to infiltrate, whereas at least, you know, everybody has to start somewhere, and Better Gym, they've supported me through and through, even throughout COVID, with so many things. So it's been lovely. So that's wonderful. Was it Crystal or Krista?
Krista.
Krista. Oh, Krista, I hope to see you again. Well, you know that I'm in Brixton in Yoga Point, so hopefully I'll see you there. We're also on Zoom as well. We have Zoom classes.
Okay, great. Lovely to see you.
You too. Well, hear you. Love and light.
Any other questions for Yanadev?
Oh, that's so sweet.
Aha.
Hi.
Here is Natalie.
Hiya, thank you for sharing your story. It's really interesting. I just wanted to find out a little bit more about African yoga, because you mentioned a little bit about it before, that that's not something that you sort of have practiced in, but what does it kind of entail?
Okay, so African yoga is, I'm trying to remember his name to try and give him a shout out as well. Pablo Amani, I believe his name is Pablo. I've got one of his books here, but just for the sake of it, I'm going to stay seated. I think it's, yeah, Pablo Amani. And I came across him at a festival night. And what it entails, it's more so the fact that a lot of things that have come from Africa aren't really referenced as coming from Africa. So all of the things that have come from Africa, basically nothing has come from Africa. So what he has done is he has put together a series of asanas that pay tribute more so to the kind of Kemetic journey. So there is another yoga school named the Kemetic Yoga School. I hope that's the right phrasing, but it's by another, let me just get the book, because I feel bad if I'm not giving the right reference. I'm getting up. So by a gentleman, there we go. So by a gentleman named, I can never pronounce his name, but Dr. Mutia Ashby, and he has Egyptian yoga. And then this influenced Pablo Amman to do African yoga, because, you know, when you're going back to the pyramids, even though yoga was popularized by South Asia because of Patanjali and, you know, all of the philosophies, when you go further back and you look on the pyramids, then you start to see that there are lots of poses that are similar to what is happening, but it's just that no one speaks about it. But there's so much knowledge in Africa that no one speaks about. And if they do speak about it, it's been whitewashed in a way that it no longer seems to be African, or, you know, it's like more Arabic or Middle Eastern. It's just everything but Africa, basically. So this is what Pablo Amani done. So it's just the really wonderful poses. It's quite restorative. It's like yin yoga meets, I would say yin yoga meets vinyasa. So it's very mindful and it's very devotional, because you're breathing and you're focusing on the gods and the goddesses of Egypt. So it is a beautiful thing. And he is online. And I did actually want to do a course with him. It's just that unfortunately it didn't resonate itself to do so. So it's just one of those things.
And there's also a friend of mine, Melanin in Bloom, Amani. I don't know if you know Amani.
No, or maybe I do, but
she's literally classes online, and I think she's got a course coming up as well. Melanin in Bloom is her Instagram title.
Okay, maybe I'll take a look at her as well, because I'm looking to do a new course, and you know, we to try and give more space and to teach more of the practices that aren't really that popular. You know, because everything is so popularized nowadays, mandala, dharma, all of these other things. It's like, well, what about Kemetic yoga? What about African yoga? But because of these establishments are a lot smaller, they don't really have the clout behind them to really push or to really make it in a lot of the wider spaces that just don't really recognize those accreditations, to be honest with you. That's what it is. It is what it is. Yeah. Thank you,
Natalie.
Thanks.
Any final questions for our learned Vaun or Yanadev?
I love it. Just call me whatever you like. Vaun, Yanadev. I mean, I am formless. So then I just learned recently that nirvana actually means no form or sound. So we're all trying to reach nirvana. So really how we identify ourselves makes no difference, because we're only identifying ourselves for our material denseness. So all of these things about like non-binary, before I didn't get it, but now when you look at it from a spiritual perspective, I'm starting to understand the further we move away from everything that we have come to condition ourselves to respect, the more likely we are to return home, because we have an unconscious bias thinking that this place is home, and it is not. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so if there are no further questions for our lovely Yanadev, I will bid you all a wonderful evening and thank you for joining once again Yoga Journeys. So the next one is on the 2nd, I think it's the 2nd of November. So first Monday, November, with Sabrina Kelly. So that'll be our next yogi of color that I'll be interviewing. So these are all, if you've missed any of the series, so this is I think number 5, and they're all on the MoreYoga public YouTube site. You can just find Yoga Journeys in there, and each recording is up. So this will be up in a couple of days as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Sam.
Welcome, Sam.
Thank you so much for spending your evening with us. Love and light. Blessings.
Take care.
Take care.
Good night, everyone. I shall log off and call you.